Hey, Katie, good morning.
Good morning to you, Leslie.
Thank you so much for joining our summit. I know you've joined our summits in the past, and I think your philosophy is very aligned with what we are talking about in this summit. So I'm excited to have you.
Well, thanks for having me. I love being here.
So just to start out, can you tell everyone who doesn't know you from your past summit, what your background is and what it is that you do?
Yeah, so I am a health and wellness educator. My background is in health sciences. And after I graduated school, I actually became a Pilates teacher. I had my daughter young, and it was a better fit for the moment, I thought, for the moment. But I ended up really exploring wellness from that angle, getting out of the clinical space and into that proactive health space. I'm also a breath worker. I teach for the Language of Breath Worker School, and I'm the founder of Deep Line Health, Chicago Cold Club, which is a cold exposure community here in Chicago, and 21 Slow, which I'll tell you a little bit more later about, which is a 21-day lifestyle nutrition program.
That's awesome. So you really take a holistic view from the body to the mind to the breathing, all of it.
Yeah, it's all under the umbrella of nervous system, right? So how
Oh,
can we do
interesting.
that through working with how we feel? Because at the end of the day, we can have all the information in the world. We can be so ready. We can make a plan. We can write it all out. That's very fun. But then in the moment, what sabotages us is how we feel. So let's get to the root of that.
That is so interesting because I think it's very relevant to this summit subject, which is weight management. I think, in theory, people know what they want to do. They have their plans, they have their strategies, but sometimes things get in the way. And I'd love to hear more about that. Talk more about like what you feel, what the impact is. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think we're all very familiar, with the word proprioception, right? Like we can kind of sense what's going on around us. And in fact, most of us are in our heads for the majority of our experience with life. So we really have a great proprioception. We are really aware of everybody and what they need and what's happening. But the other side of that is something called interoception, which is the awareness of what's going on inside of you. This can be simple things like your heartbeat, noticing how fast you're breathing, noticing visceral sensations like, do you notice when your face gets red or you get goosebumps? But it's also hunger and thirst. These are all physical sensations. And so often we aren't aware of them because we're always in our mind. We're sort of like this head that we deliver to meetings, and the body's like, can you just not mess with me and wreck my day? And so, unfortunately, what happens when we aren't aware of our internal state is sometimes our signals, our cues are either missed or confused. And as frustrating that is, and that can be a saboteur to your great plans, we can also utilize improving the skill of interoception to help us along the way, to have better compliance with our goals, and to manage stress in ways that is that doesn't require us letting go of commitments we've made around our
No,
health.
that sounds really great. And you mentioned even before we started recording, like weight sabotage, which to me is a really interesting concept because we have these plans and we know what we want to do. And then we almost sabotage ourselves, however you want to think about it, or your feelings or whatever. How does that work in terms of people's healthy eating or exercise or all the elements of weight management? Like, what are those sabotage feelings and what can you do about that?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think the feeling is as unique as your fingerprint. We're all going to experience things differently. But what happens is when we have low interoception, which is just really common, we're just not in our bodies. When we get a stressor come in, it's really surprising. And so often we don't notice until it's really loud. Or we don't notice at all because we get a hint of something and we're immediately reacting. We don't even realize we've eaten half a bag of chips while we're nervously waiting for a phone call. Or that, I noticed for a long time, anytime I would get on the phone with anybody, it was like I would start eating and eating and eating. It was this interesting thing. I wasn't hungry. It wasn't about, this isn't about like figure out a way to restrict yourself from food, but food can be something that we reach to when we just we don't have a relationship with our body. In fact, they're studying using meditation and breath work specifically with addiction and eating disorders for this very purpose, because it's such an easy thing to do. Some of us do other behaviors, like you might bite your fingernails, right? You might pick at something, you might tap, fidget, whatever. This is like another form of that. So essentially what happens when we aren't in our bodies is we pivot into these quick decisions, these comforts very quickly, when what we really need is to stop, drop, and meditate. So as you start to practice breath work and meditation, you start to get a little more time between stimulus and response. It's like try to watch a video in 10x and see what's going on. It's too fast. But every time you practice breath work and meditation, it's like you slow it down 0.1%, and then it gets slower and slower. And all of a sudden, this 1 second video is 10 seconds. You can pause and you can redirect and make a choice, a conscious decision, take a new action instead of feeling surprised with these overwhelming urges that just take you off your game.
Interesting. I can definitely relate to that. I think we can probably all remember a time where you're like saying or doing something and you're like, how am I did this is what am I doing here? Like it almost sneaks up on you. And the food one is interesting. Like one reaction could be to eat mindlessly as a reaction to something, and the other could be to not even realize you're hungry until it's overwhelming. I've had that problem before, where I will suddenly realize I'm starving, and then I'm like having this huge meal when I could have made some more mindful decisions leading up to that. So that makes a lot of sense.
And even while you're consuming, how intensely and quickly and all of these things can become a meditation. Chewing your food 40 times and eating in a conscious way becomes meditation. There we go. We're stacking habits here. Slow down your eating. You get a little credit for meditation.
Talk more about that. Talk more about that. Because I think when people think of meditation, or when I think of meditation, it's like, you're like, or whatever for like 20 minutes. But you're saying meditation could be a process of eating or anything. What does that mean?
Yeah, it can. Meditation is like, we have this one narrow idea of it, but it's incredibly broad. There's such a variety of different styles of meditations that can include incredibly active styles, of which breath work can fall into, right? Because you're doing something in breath work. And then after you do this active breath work, you sit and your stillness is welcome. Versus sometimes we sit down and we're like, you like need a little foreplay. We'll just put it that way, to actually sit down and relax into it. Otherwise you're like, and it can feel pointless or frustrating. So what I mean by making your meal into a meditation is, if you're like me on a busy day, I've got the phone going and I'm like sort of just shoving it in my mouth to get it done. I'm not tasting or really experiencing it all. But if you sit down, you put your phone away, you breathe slowly, you chew, all of a sudden you're having a sensory experience. So when I talked to you a little earlier about being aware of your body and its sensations, this can start with smells, tastes. This starts with just slowing down. This is easier than trying to grasp. Sometimes we're like, I don't know how I feel. Bad. It's like, well, what is the sensation that comes with bad? Is it in your throat? Is it in your face? Is it deep? Is it tingly? Like, what goes on with it? We have to kind of grow your palate as a means of getting better at this interoception skill. But it can start with sensing a little bit more externally, or there's that relationship of it's a scent out here, but also I'm experiencing it in here. What is that scent? And what does it feel like to swallow? Do I notice myself getting fuller? This can be a very mindful experience that can give you a little credit, for meditating along the way.
It's like awareness, or just being in that moment of whatever you're doing.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. And you had talked about stress earlier. Is that all related to, is stress just one of the many feelings that could drive us to these behaviors?
Well, yeah, so when we're unaware of our stresses, it starts to build, which is so often, right? We're like, I'm fine. Just keep doing more things. Let me just, make my deadlines and hustle. We get into this like excited state while we're charging through the day. We're drinking our caffeine, we're making it work. And we don't notice sometimes until we're screaming at somebody who cuts us off on the road, or we're snapping at our kid, or we get, one more thing goes just a little off what we planned, and it's like completely frazzled and we're crying. This is like, hold on, there were signs leading up to this, but the speed at which we're living, we're not seeing those signs. So like stress is not a bad thing. We want stress. Acute stress especially is fine, but it's this chronic stress that you're not even feeling. And you know you're not feeling it if you're exploding easily, or you're binge eating easily, or binge drinking, or all of these behaviors that sort of seem like out of the blue, because like you're not accessing that lower level. You're not feeling that lower level of the pain. So we just get to that top point, and then all of a sudden we have problems with our stress, right? Because the stress is impacting how the decisions we're making.
Got it. So it's about like noticing it earlier instead of
Right.
waiting until it's reached some sort of a breaking point.
Early detection. Like I'm at the point, I'm communicating with somebody, and it's like I will be getting pings, I call it, just little pings, and it's like there'll be pings that are going yay, 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 or hesitate, hesitate, hesitate. Now, it doesn't mean I say like, my body says, no, I'm not doing it, but it does give me a second to pause and reflect. I mean, this is the essence of mindfulness. And if you're thinking about changing the way you eat, mindfulness is absolutely key. And it's not just about food. It's a whole life experience. So by starting to get those pings and just taking the time with you and you to have a conversation, just like you would with your spouse or your child or somebody else you're trying to get on board with something. Say, I respect you, body. I hear you. I'm going to notice that. I'm going to make sure I don't push too hard. And we'll see how this plays out. We can always redirect. And it's just a better relationship that's going to lead to less stress and more intuitive decision making, right? Like, I think that's a big part of stress is we don't know what to do sometimes. And then we try something, it doesn't go well, we're panicked. How am I supposed to know what to do? Your body knows, your intuition knows. And by bringing in this mindfulness, you're just going to have more of that available more easily.
Interesting. I can see so many ways that this would have impact somebody's healthier lifestyle. Whether it's like catching stress sooner or just realizing when you're full, or like so many, or what your body needs. Like if you, sometimes, at least for me, I'll have cravings of foods because my body needs this vitamin or this, element. Wow. Okay, very interesting. I know you mentioned you do a nutritional program called 21 Slow. And am I right that that's kind of a way for people to start being more mindful or reset, or how does that fit into your overall philosophy?
Yeah, 21 Slow is a 21-day nutrition and lifestyle program, and it's specifically designed at anyone who is in a place where they're maybe consuming a lot of processed foods. They might think they have food sensitivities, but they're not sure to what. In this program, I mean, we're taking away all of the inflammatory foods, and we could have a whole other conversation about inflammation, but we're taking away caffeine, alcohol, dairy, gluten, soy, corn. Now, on the caffeine note, we do allow, if you're a regular caffeine drinker, you might just reduce it or drink it differently, but that's a hard one for people. So we have accommodations for caffeine. Don't freak out. 21 Slow is like, you're hearing all this, right? That's so intense. Like, what a horrible thing to do, to take away all of those things, but it's actually so nourishing. In fact, people will say it's more food than they're used to eating. Most of us actually are walking around a bit malnourished, but still you're going to have cravings for your comfort foods, especially in the beginning. And so what we've done is we've brought this huge change in using the support of breath work and meditation. So we have daily short sessions that help us sort of set the tone for the day and remind us of these tools that we have, because actually we want the challenge. We want to feel that urge to have something, and we want to overcome it, because every time we do, we get a little bit more confident for when the program ends, so that you can continue afterwards, not being in 21 slow mode. That's not the point. It is a break for your organs to do some healing, to reset your metabolism, to do all kinds of wonderful things. But the point is, when you get done, that you have slowed down enough that you do cook some meals at home, that you are being mindful of what you're eating, and you are reducing sugar, and you are just existing in a way that's more supportive of your body, and we're reducing stress. This year, there's even going to be an optional social media detox for those.
Oh, wow.
That will give you the time you need to prepare your own food. I promise you that.
That's so interesting. I love how it's so holistic, and it's almost like a reset point. Like if you're doing things a certain way, you can stop, try something for 21 days and have a new perspective going forward.
Yeah, it's really powerful. I'm so proud of this program. People just love it. We have repeat. Everybody comes back the following year, and it's so good.
That's awesome.
And underneath that, I will say, if you're like not quite ready to jump into something like that, I do have a free app that's so simple with a bunch of breathwork techniques. They're all 2 minutes or less. So that's a great way to like dip your toe in. So I know we have that coming out for you. Try it out. It's a great little tool.
You can do anything for 2 minutes. I joined Katie's cold plunge the other weekend where I jumped into Lake Michigan. I don't know what the water temperature was.
It's probably about 40
degrees. And I did it for 2 minutes. And, you can do anything for 2 minutes. Okay, great. Well, so for those that are interested in learning more about the work that you do, 21 Slow, your app, like where can they find you?
Go to deeplinehealth.com. I'm not going to spell it out. I'm sure it'll be somewhere. deeplinehealth.com. You can sign up for my email list there. That's the best place to reach me. I am on social media, but I have adjusted that quite a bit. So it's better to just be on my email list and let's stay in touch through there.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in learning more.
Thanks, Leslie.